Okay, let's get this going. There's Miss Goddess, the first on the draw. There's no crying in baseball. Do you guys remember that movie from the 1980s? Can I remember what it was? I believe it was a line from Tom Hanks where he said there's no crying in baseball. What happened to fairness? And that's where we're going with this. What happened to political fairness? And the point I'm trying to make is, as a liberal, I debate with MAGA. I debate with the right all day, every day. That is my preferred audience. I make that clear. A League of Their Own. That's the movie, D1. Yes, there's no crying in baseball. In other words, sometimes in life, things are not fair. But as you can see, this video is titled, What Happened to Fairness? And what I mean by that is, whether I'm debating with MAGA or I'm debating with liberals and conservatives, I hear stuff that I absolutely am certain if the situation was reversed, the mindset would change. Let's take the economy. Let's take what we're paying at the pump, the cost of goods and services in this country. I'm hearing all day, every day from liberals and Democrats how none of this is President Biden's fault, knowing damn well, without a shadow of a doubt, that if President Trump took office and less than a year and a half later this same shit happened, you'd be blaming Trump. So at the end of the day, I'm asking the question, what happened to fairness and integrity in politics? It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, folks. I'm not here to hammer liberals or hammer Democrats or hammer MAGA or hammer Republicans. I'm just simply here to discuss calling a spade a spade. Having integrity in the way you judge events when they're right before your face. We got Biden in office, like I just stated. Less than a year and a half later, the price of fuel has doubled. And you got liberals everywhere suggesting it's not his fault. He's just the president of the United States. He has nothing to do with what is going on in the country for which he leads. I know this sounds like an attack on Biden. If you want to call it that, call it whatever you want to call it. I'm just simply here to address the blame game. That is what I'm here to criticize, what I'm here to blame. As a liberal, you know, if Trump took office and this stuff was going on right now, if he had Mitt Romney, what is her name? Liz Cheney was in office, and they were not cooperating with Trump, destroying his administration, destroying his campaign promises, we would be criticizing Trump. We wouldn't be blaming it on Liz Cheney. We wouldn't be blaming it on Mitt Romney. We would be blaming it on President Trump. So if it's happening under Biden, how does somehow it not become his fault? He had signature campaign promises that he is not meeting. Yet the Liberal Party, my party in particular, the Democrats, are blaming folks like Joe Manchin and other senators in Congress under him. Now, if you want to look at it that way, we can examine it that way. If you come to power and you make campaign promises as a presidential candidate, certainly someone like Joe Biden, who's been a lifelong politician, you would know the campaign promises that I am making. And by the way, folks, get my likes up. I need 5,000. I want you guys to hear this. If you come to office and you make campaign promises as a politician like Biden, you would be savvy enough to know I cannot implement any of this shit without the assistance of the Senate and Congress. So if you make these promises, knowing that you need the Senate and Congress, and you're not successfully able to obtain the Senate and Congress giving you approval, then you failed. You failed. You don't get to blame the Senate and Congress. You knew you needed them when you made these promises. Period. So what I'm just simply trying to say is I do not like to entertain the notion that everything can go bad in the country and the guy who is in charge of the country can say none of this is my fault. That makes no sense to me. And at the end of the day, I state what I just stated before. If this was happening under Trump, if it was happening under Obama or happening under George W. Bush, we would blame those politicians. How the hell does Biden get a pass on this? That doesn't make any sense to me. Let's go to the comments. We are not in war. Ukraine needs to worry about themselves. R510, we should never have told the Ukrainians, if you give up your atomic weapons, we will be on your side and we will assist you in assuring that you are not attacked. If America had minded its own business in the 90s, you wouldn't be complaining about sending them money in 2022. America has lied to too many nations and told them if you do A, we'll guarantee B. They did A, and we tried to renege on B. Here a lot of you are in 2022 suggesting we should not give the Ukrainians shit. We should let the Ukrainians handle their own problems. Had they not listened to America, they would still be a nuclear nation and no one would be messing with them. So you gotta help them out. You're ruining American credibility on the world stage when you make these promises, such as telling the Iraqis, rise up against Saddam Hussein under the George W. Bush era, rise up against Saddam Hussein and we'll help you. They did it. We did not help them. George W. Bush ended the war and they all got killed. Remember George W. Bush, the son, suggesting that, well, he killed his own people. Yeah, because they rose up against him at your advice. You advised them to rise up against their leader. Their leader killed his own people. Now you're going to start a second war under the guise that they killed their own people. If the United States stayed out of people's business, they wouldn't have to defend folks. Just look at it like that. This was a country coming out of a shutdown. Okay, that's fair enough. I'm just simply saying, if you know the country is coming out of a shutdown, if you know the country is going through a pandemic, all of that existed when President Biden was running for office. Do not make promises that you don't know if you can keep. If you fail at keeping those promises, you do not get to blame the COVID shutdown that was in existence when you made the promises. There is no way to spin this other than you are the coach of the team has lost, and you're responsible. You don't see press conferences after the game where the coach is blaming a quarterback or blaming the guy for not taking a shot. The coach, if he's a good coach, if he's worth his salary, it's my fault. The buck stops here. All of this blaming on senators and no, he's the president. He knew going into office, he needed those senators, he needed those congresspeople to implement his policies. If you are not for certain you have them on board, then don't make the promises. Do not make the promises. All right, Biden doesn't do press. Yeah. Trump kept his promises pretty much. Way more than Biden, way more. And that came from My Name is Robert. I will say this in defense of Biden. He's not even halfway through his term yet. So it doesn't look good. I'm not going to try to spin it any other way. Certainly with a red wave being widely expected to take place later this year. The promises he has not made right now in June of 2022, they're going to be harder to implement after the red wave or after the midterms. So it does not look good for Biden. But at the end of the day, I'm just simply saying, if you do not have certainty that the Senate, the Congress, and whoever else you may need is going to follow through with your campaign promises, if you make those campaign promises and they fail, that's on you. That is on you. You said shit before you didn't have your boys on your side yet. You made promises that you did not have any legitimate reason to believe you could keep. How could that not be his fault? And by the way, let's make it clear. If Joe Manchin and the senators that tend to be against Biden, if those folks were on board and were helping Biden implement his signature campaign promises, we wouldn't be giving Joe Manchin credit. We would be giving it to Biden. So if the campaign promises fail, how does the blame go back to Joe Manchin or a senator that's disagreeing with him? I don't like the notion of everything good a president does, the president gets credit for. Everything bad a president does is somebody else's fault. Now, I'm not going to pin that solely on Biden. I said the same thing to all of my MAGA folks, my beloved audience, when they were doing the same thing for Trump. Under the Trump presidency, once again, it was the same thing. When crime goes down, it's my responsibility. When crime goes up, it's the liberal mayors, the liberal governors, and the powers that be in liberal cities. I don't like the blame game, no matter what side of the aisle it's coming from. Be able to call a spade, folks. Be able to see, or better yet, implement political fairness or who the hell's coming in? Be able to see fairness in judgment, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. Looking in the comments, do you mean when Trump promised to balance the budget and raise the deficit $7 trillion? Are you suggesting that Trump promised to raise the budget by $7 trillion? I've never heard that. The wall would have been done now if Biden did not stop the wall. Yeah, that's true. But once again, when you promise to build a wall, you know that the next president has the ability to stop it. So if you're going to build a wall, the minute you take office, you need to get working on that wall. You need to be sure the senators under you are down with building a wall. Otherwise, you may be promising some shit that you will not deliver. I could get up there and promise that, well, if you elect me, we're going to make black people reach the level that whites were in America in the 1800s, knowing that no white senator is going to agree with that shit. But if I make that promise and that promise fails, then I would have no place looking at black folks and saying, well, it wasn't my fault. Well, you knew that shit wasn't going to work. Under Biden, he made campaign promises that are not being realized. And folks are blaming everybody else but the man that made the promises. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let me look into the box. You give me a second. We'll put Ms. Goddess on first. I think I know where you're going on this. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Look, you already know
How
where
are
I'm
you?
going. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I don't know where you're going until you take me, but I'm speculating. We'll let you tell it. What's on your mind?
Well, maybe you're correct. All right. I'm
Okay,
gonna
what's
start
on
off
your
like
mind?
this. It like throughout the history that I can remember. Okay, the whole political campaign is on promises. They'll promise you the moon and back. It's like you sell yourself, and then like a
Yep.
lot of them getting to office is a big disappointment. Now getting to the president, all presidents do the same thing. It's like they would like to say they're going to make some type of changes, and then like once it gets to the Congress and the Senate, it fails. And I feel as though if two other Democrats was really Democrats and not portraying to be Democrats, maybe some things would have got resolved a lot easier. So Biden have a lot on
Wait, wait.
his
You said
hand.
wait. Hang on. You said you feel it if somebody was what pretending to be Democrats. I didn't understand that. You said
Yeah.
things would have
Okay.
got.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
it's two Democrats that they fold during the time, like say like if Biden wants something to get approved, and like the Biden, like I'll say Biden, and like the Democrat, and then like the Democrat Senate, come, and Republican Senate come. So two of the Democrats always say nay, like they pull
Okay.
away, and I know that that have been happening,
Yes, yeah, but
and
I agree. I agree with that, particularly Joe Manchin of West Virginia and the other female out there. I cannot think of her name. Somebody in the comments will tell me. But
exactly,
yeah, there are two.
exactly,
There are two senators that do not agree with much of Biden's campaign promises.
right,
However, we could also point to Mitt Romney and folks on the under the Trump administration that are Republican that did not agree with a lot of his policies as well. That's going to happen. You have to understand that as running for president that everybody's not going to agree with you. And that should have some effect on the campaign promises you make. When you start talking about, I'm going to ban the AR or I'm going to give free tuition, you need to make phone calls to people and find out where their minds is before you make a wild
agree,
promise like that. But go
agree.
ahead.
But I disagree with Romney. He's wishy washy. He is so
He's
what
not he's
like
not down with
he's
he's not down with Trump. He is not down with Trump is what I'm saying.
but he has pulled back on Trump's side. Like I say, he's wishy washy on certain things.
Yeah, right?
Certain things he's very wishy washy. But to whereas the two Democrats, they just firm, like they just not going to vote in a way to help out the Democrats. And
Well, that and see the thing about it is if you really want to be an honest politician or one that is actually worth your salt, you should be looking out for your constituents before party. And what Joe Manchin is doing, even though as a liberal, I admit Joe Manchin is a problem for the Liberal Party as a whole, but he's
Right.
in West Virginia. He's in West
Exactly.
Virginia.
A red
The
state.
folks who vote, yeah, the folks who voted him in do not
Are
want him
Republicans.
following the Biden administration, and that makes sense what
Exactly.
he's doing.
Exactly. And then like somebody said, okay, and I read the comment where they blaming Biden for the COVID. Okay, Biden came in, Biden made a lot of lives are saved right now today because Biden did what he had to do and made sure that everyone in this country that wanted to be vaccinated is vaccinated. Trump told people to drink bleach. Trump told people don't get the shot. Okay? Trump had over 500,000, almost a million people die under his watch. That's the reason why he didn't make it. The Democrats did not want Biden to make it, but Biden was the last man standing. And we did not want Trump in there based on the things that Trump has done to this nation. In the same way with January the 6th. Okay? Now, like I know it's not going to be, some not going to believe me. And you know you're going to be diehard Trump supporters to the very end. But as far as Biden taking the blame for COVID, he probably saved your life when you went and got all those shots to save your life. Now, as far as the economy and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that,
And see,
Trump,
let
Trump.
me let me give you let me give you my spiel on that, and I'll let you continue. But in regards to COVID, that is one where yeah, I don't put the blame on Biden at all. Here's my spiel on it. When COVID came on the scene and folks were getting sick right and left, and the CDC started advising the Trump administration, you need to shut stuff down. Thank you for that, Hat. Appreciate that. When the CDC and the powers that be were telling Trump you need to shut things down, Trump had a really good economy up until the point of the pandemic. So Trump was planning on running in 2020 and showing that, well, listen, the economy's doing really great under me. So when the CDC started telling him to shut things down, he's looking at, oh my God, my baby,
Mhm,
the economy, they're trying to
mhm,
destroy it. So what
mhm,
Trump was left, the challenge Trump was left with was, how can I treat COVID the way that the powers that be are advising me to
mhm,
and maintain my great economy. And he tried to do both at the same time, which there's no way you can successfully do. You
right,
got to shut the country down. If you
right,
leave everything open, you got a mess on your hands. So
right,
for a time, he left everything open. Then he stepped in and said, "They told me I got to shut it down, so I have to shut it down." Then he went back to opening it up. So he delivered a very mixed message. And to some degree, that mixed message still remains to this day. So I don't give Biden a lot of flack in regards to COVID. I will suggest that that started under the Trump administration. Go ahead, Ms. Goddess.
Also, Trump wrote some executive orders that's been in effect right now. Um, and you know, like you know, we're going to point fingers and blame. And even okay, if Trump was in office right now, then it'd be the same weight or the same what people saying as far as for Biden. You know, Biden just came in an administration at the wrong time. You know, and it's just now one thing that I do feel Biden on, and I do feel him on, and the Republicans, because as a whole, they both have to agree. Remember, the Senate and Congress have to agree on that Ukraine. They didn't. No one disagree on sending that money over there. So
Yeah.
you cannot so really, you cannot be pointing
Yeah.
the finger to Biden
Yeah.
because they sat at that table and they agreed to send all that money. And it's a shame because so many people are hungry and like families are homeless, hungry. Rent just keep going up, up, up. You can't afford to buy a mortgage. It's really every time you go to the grocery store, the prices go up. It's shortage on chicken, shortage on this, shortage on that. It's a lot of stress that goes on with a lot of people on a daily trying to live. And then the jobs don't respect their employees. They treat them like slaves and want to talk to them any kind of way and fire them for any type of way. Then they always say somebody don't want to work, but yet y'all don't value your employees. It's just a lot going on. It's so
There's a lot.
America is broken. It's going to only get worse. I don't see no
Well,
hope in sight.
let's hope we find somebody that prevents it from getting worse. But I do got to move the program on, ma'am. I do appreciate you
Well,
coming
you know,
through.
you always got Miss Goddess coming up in her.
And ain't nothing but love for you. Nothing but love for you. Okay. All right. Old folks fishing. And let me just hang on. Old folks fishing. Hold on one second. But like I said, at the end of the day, what happens under your watch, all of this blame game, all of that thing. Like I said, if this same economy, if everything, the exact same shit was happening under Trump, us liberals would be blaming Trump. What do you think about this, old folks fishing? Good afternoon.
All right, I'm gonna start with this part, okay?
Okay.
Because uh, uh, I don't blame neither one of these presidents for anything that they done. All right.
I'm listening.
I've been around. I've been around presidents since Nixon.
Okay.
Nixon is actually the first president that I know. All
Okay.
right? I didn't vote for him. I was still too young. All right. I didn't vote till the Reagan era. All right. But
Okay.
I remember Nixon from being when I was a kid. All
Did
right?
you vote for Reagan or did you go with Mondale?
No, I was in Germany, so I voted with the military.
Okay.
The military. I was overseas, so I didn't know anything about absentee votes. So I voted with the military.
Okay.
And
Okay.
whatever the military went with, that's where I fell in. I'm
They
not.
typically go right. The military typically goes right, so you probably would have voted right then.
Yeah, yeah, but I didn't vote. Period. Just me being in the military, my vote went wherever it went. Okay.
Oh.
Now, my thing about these presidents, okay, and like I said, I don't blame either one of them. All right.
Okay.
With the exception of Trump, politicians are what? Lawyers.
That is true.
Lawyers lie for a living.
That is true. That is true.
All right. So, I mean, you sit there and you say, well, they promised me this. They promised us that. They promised this. You can only do what the Congress lets you do. Okay.
So you shouldn't make promises then.
Well, yes and no. All right. You should try to make a change if that's what you believe. All right. But promising some astronomical thing, all right, that you know that you don't have 172 people standing behind you on. All right.
Okay.
Why would you even make the claim?
Because you
Obama
just
said
want to get in office. Because you just want to get in office. A good example would be tuition, promising that you're going to alleviate tuition. He would have had to know you don't have everybody behind you on that. That's a big promise. Why make that?
All right, and then you what recently? I ain't gonna say recently, but not too far in the past, you had Obama said change, and that's pretty much his platform. Change. Okay, he made a few
Yeah.
changes. He made a few changes. The changes were mainly for the LGBTQ alphabet society. All right.
Well, let's just be real. Obama delivered on change. I mean, when you think about the fact that you got a black president which was probably some of the biggest change in this country, and then you
That
got LGBT got the right to marry the same sex. You're talking about two historical changes right there.
okay.
LGBT getting
All right.
the right to marry and him being elected. So there was big change under Obama.
You do know there was a black president way before George Washington, right?
Were we even a country before George Washington?
Makes no difference. There was a black president before George Washington. Historical fact.
Okay, who was that guy?
I can look him up, but right now I can't come off a hand. But there was a black
The, the
president
the
before.
fact that you don't know who he is kind of speaks volumes. I mean, if he that big, we should know. We should be able to roll him off the top of our head like that.
Well, the thing of it is, he's not putting European history books.
Okay. All right. I've never heard of that. Okay, fair enough. I've never. I mean, like I said, we were not a nation yet, so I don't know what that meant. I mean, you're going back to something that was before United States was even a country.
Well, it was still a colony. I mean, I ain't gonna say colony, but it was still a
I mean,
United States
he's the president of
corporation
what? That's, I guess, the
of the
point I'm trying
United
to.
States of the United
We
States.
were we, we were not the United States at that point. That's what I'm saying. We were there. Even the 13 colonies. We were not the United States. What was he? He must have been the president of a small community. He couldn't have been the president of the United States.
Hold on.
I see folks are putting in John Hanson.
All right.
But somebody has John Hanson was said.
Yep.
And in regards to
that's his name, Hanson.
John Hanson.
That's his name.
Okay,
Hanson.
now somebody had. Okay, Dark Guyver put in that John Hanson lived between the years 1791 and 1860. So in 1791, that's after 1776. So we would have been a country already. So he should be in line among the 46 presidents. He should be in that line somewhere. So what years did he serve?
The thing of it is, and to get away from that part and make my point that I was going to do, but I just said that he, as far as Biden, I mean, as far as Obama goes, he was the first. All right. The thing of it is, all of these presidents, all right, lie to you. They do that to get your vote.
True. Right? That is true.
You sit there, I ain't going to say you, but the country sits there and says, well, I'm going to pick the better of the two lesser evils in their opinion. All right. In my opinion, in my opinion, and I don't care what anybody says, this is just my opinion. Okay. They're all there just to line their pockets. All right.
That's fair.
The government does not care about us. If you take the people in America and look at and put them in a position of a beehive, all right, you have worker bees, you have soldiers, all right. You're the worker bee. You're the worker bee community. You're the bottom of the chain. They don't give a damn about you. All right. As long
so,
as you
well, let me. I don't want to hang on a second. I don't want to get too far off topic, but I want to ask you this: do you think what's going on in America? You're suggesting what's going on in America right now has nothing to do with President Biden?
No, I don't. Biden's a puppet. Biden's a puppet. Biden's doing exactly what they're telling him to do.
So, who are they?
Congress and everybody else. You can only do what they let you do.
Okay, so
do you think when Obama was in office, do you think that what he did was all he wanted to do?
No, but you need to.
You know how many bills? Do you know how many bills went across that table that they said, "No, you ain't getting away with this shit." Excuse my language, but you ain't getting away with this.
Okay, so based on what you're suggesting is that when we rate the presidents, we actually should just be rating Congress. We shouldn't really get a president any credit at all because they're puppets. Let's just say, is it a good Congress or a bad Congress?
Yeah, they all puppets. All right, they're all
puppets for Congress.
The Democratic Party and the Republican Party is what's running this country. All right, the rest of who they put in that office, they can put you in that office. They can put me in that office, but you still gonna do what we tell you to do.
So let me ask you this question then: why would President Biden suggest that he's going to get tuition relief, for instance, knowing that it's up to Congress to do that, not him?
Because all they can do is the only thing. The only thing that he can do is suggest this. All right.
That ain't what he, but that's not what he stated he was going to do. He said he was going to do this stuff. He didn't say he was going to suggest it.
Okay. All right. All right. I can tell you, I'm gonna go out here and cut my grass. All right. My
Okay.
grass 3 feet. My grass is cut. It's trimmed. It's beautiful. It stays that way. But I can let my grass go 3 feet high. All right. My homeowners association, all right, can sit there and tell me you need to cut your grass. And I can tell them, all right, I'm going out here to cut my grass. All right. Don't mean that I'm going to cut my grass.
I'm just okay. I get the point you're trying to make, and I got to move on. But I'll give you the last word. I'm just simply saying this, based on what you're saying, the president really just is a figurehead. He doesn't get credit for anything good or bad. I mean, why is he even there under those rules?
He gets blamed for everything that goes wrong. All right.
Okay.
A president very seldom gets rewarded for anything.
I don't agree with that. I think
everybody wants to nitpick because he's the head of the country. They want to find the wrong. They want to find what he did wrong. Don't nobody want to see what he's doing right. As far as Biden goes, I haven't seen nothing he done right.
Go ahead.
When Trump was in there, I ain't seen nothing that he done right.
Have you seen any president that you thought was doing the right thing?
The only president, now I'm gonna go back to Nixon. The only president that I seen done the right thing was Nixon when he resigned.
Okay. All right, man. Well, I got to move the program on. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I just don't trust none of them.
All right. Well, good to have you on again, man. Appreciate it. You take care. You too. All right. Now I think most folks have a politician along the list of presidents that are in their lifetime. I'm in my late 40s. I believe that gentleman, going back to Nixon, he's a little bit older than me. The fact that he has not had one president he favors, that's different. I mean, and that's obviously his right to have that opinion. But most of us, you either lean right and you like some of the right-wing presidents, or you lean left and you like some of the left-wing presidents. You can be a Trump supporter that did not necessarily favor, say, George H.W. Bush, but you tend to lean right. You could be a liberal, that did not favor, say, Jimmy Carter, but you lean left. Having a citizen like him that says, I vote, but I don't like any of these, that's a little different. And that was funny. I found that to be kind of humorous, but the man has a right to his opinion. Okay, Quiggs, I think before, we're going to bring Quiggs to the program. There were two John Hansons, president of the Continental Congress, was actually white. I don't know about the first black president thing. I had to do a lot of research. I have never heard of that. Even in strong black communities that do a lot of research, I've never really heard of them giving credit to another African American as being president of the United States. Quiggs, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, handsome. How are you?
I'm doing real good, ma'am. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. The reason why I jumped on so quickly was because I wanted to address that one woman who wanted to just blame COVID, everything on Trump. And that is ridiculous, because Trump did the best that he could. He fast-tracked those vaccines. And I will be one thing honest with you is I don't agree with the vaccines. I'm pro-Trump, but I was against the vaccine thing, and I still am.
Okay. Well, let me say this in regards to the suggestion that Trump did everything that he could. He wouldn't have tweeted if he was doing everything he could. I mean, it was pretty obvious that the tweeting was not helping his campaign. Even to this day, it's obvious that does not help his campaign, and he's still doing it. Why do that?
Well, it's better I would rather have a president that's tweeting than the one that is hiding in the basement, to be honest with you. At least we knew.
That's a legitimate point. I get your point, but I'm just simply saying you're making it so it's a choice between two evils and suggesting that Biden is way worse than Trump. I'm giving it to you from a point of what Trump is doing is not necessary. It has nothing to do with making the country better or making the country great. The tweet is an absolute useless thing in regards to making the country better. Why do that?
Okay, I get what you're saying there, but wasn't the country doing a hell of a lot better? Then the economy was doing a lot better, even with his tweeting. It'd be one
Yeah.
thing if he was tweeting and the company was, or the country was going to poop like it is now with a president that is been in the basement. I'd rather have. I mean,
Okay. Now, in comparing Trump to Biden, I'm not going to pretend like the country under Biden is doing better than Trump. I agree with you on that. I'm just simply saying, as opposed to looking at Trump and saying, well, our country is running better with the mean tweets, so let's just bring back the mean tweets. The mean tweets are unnecessary. Why not promote that he stopped doing that? When he's up yelling Pocahontas and things like that, don't cheer, boo. Let him know that we want your policies, we want your legislation, but we don't want that shit. As opposed to wearing it on t-shirts, re-saying the same stuff. If you want Trump to win again, you got to come up with a way of getting off of the fuck your feelings campaign. That is hurting his office, not helping. And there's too many folks who are trying to bring that back. I mean, you could actually mess around and end up getting a second term of Biden or Kamala Harris or somebody by trying to drag that unnecessary shit through. Why don't the MAGA folks, my beloved audience, the ones I love talking to, why do more MAGA folks not understand that? When you talk to liberals that voted for Biden and you ask them why did they not vote for Trump, you don't hear liberals complaining about great gas prices and a really good economy. Overwhelmingly, it's the tweets. Why
no,
bring that
no, I
back?
disagree. I don't think it's just the tweets. I think that the media really helped with the brainwashing of that fact that everybody was against Trump. And why was everybody against Trump? Because he was making a lot of changes and making a lot of the people in the corporations and all these people nervous and scared. That's why it
Okay,
was all,
we
it
can
wasn't
we
just the
can
tweets.
fair enough. We can go back and forth on why we think Trump did not get a second term, but at the end of the day, there is no denying the tweets had a part in it. If you believe the media was a greater part of it, that's fine. We can go with that. But at the end
I
of the
don't have,
day, there's no denying the tweets hurt his campaign.
well, that could be so, but I mean, I don't know because I don't go on Twitter. I've never really cared about Twitter. That's irrelevant. I mean, okay, he, yeah, I get what you're saying. That was probably not a good choice, but I don't, even without the tweeting, people did not like him because of the media. Like, I have a friend that now I try telling her, stop listening to the media, do your own research, don't listen to everybody else, you make your own decisions. And then she's like, she voted for Biden now, and then she comes up to me and she says, I'm really sorry I did that, I wish I would have done more research. Because if people, I mean, how come Biden gets a pass at being the most racist president ever, making racial comments? He gets a big pass on that. I
Oh,
mean,
I can answer that. I can answer that real quick. The reason, and I agree with you in saying that Biden has said a lot of shit that is racially suspect. In fact, I know you guys bring up Senator Byrd from back in the day, who did clear his past, but Senator Byrd, I hear Biden has said a lot of racially suspect stuff. Why does he get a pass? Because he's running against Trump, and Trump has plenty of it as well. That's if Biden was running against DeSantis or Ted Cruz or somebody like that, Biden would probably look more like the racist guy as opposed to one of them. But Trump has said stuff that overwhelmingly goes against the black community. They don't like it. And the response is, well, fuck your feelings. But Trump has said some pretty damning statements to African Americans. I did a video on it.
I know
So
you did. We've kind of talked about this before, but I mean, Biden was on the Congress floor saying that we don't need any more. I can't say the word. He said it on the Congress floor. I mean, you can get experts of what Trump said here and there, but I mean, he literally said it. He actually, Biden blocked which could have been the first black woman Supreme Court, whatever, years ago in the 70s or 80s. He blocked it. He
Okay,
blocked it,
fair
but
enough.
now all of a sudden it's popular, and to help get elected, he says the first thing I'm going to do is to vote for a black woman. But he blocked the
And
first one.
this is, I get your point, and that's why this whole video is titled in regards to fairness in judging politically. You can see all of that from the Biden administration. Now, based on what you're saying, here's the reason why I believe African Americans see Trump as being more intolerant than they do Biden, even though Biden has said a lot of the racial jungle stuff that you're talking about. It's because when they look at Biden, Biden is responsible for, either through direct appointment or association, the first black president, Barack Obama. Biden is partially responsible for that. He's responsible for the first black Asian vice president, Kamala Harris. He's responsible for the first black Supreme Court female justice, Natasha Brown. And his whole administration, he just appointed a spokeswoman that's an LGBT member. He got Muslims, he got transgender members on his administration. So then, even if what you're saying is true, when a
Biden was not
person
the first person.
hold on a second. Even if what you're saying is true, when a person uses their eyes, they look at the Biden administration and they look at the Trump administration, and the Biden administration, looking like the rainbow, looks far more tolerant than the Trump administration does. Even if everything you're saying is true, what you're seeing with your eyes does not match that. Biden is appointing African Americans everywhere, and Trump was not. So what are they supposed to do?
Oh, well, I have to disagree with there, because I thought Ben Carson was black, but I could be wrong. And Trump had the first gay man be one of the spokesmen, something like that. So that's totally debunked. Trump has gave money to the what's that, HCBUs, what more money, made it so that they didn't have to go through the red tape to get monies for the colleges. So you cannot tell me that Trump didn't do anything for the black community
I
when
didn't
he
say he
did.
didn't. I didn't say he did not do anything. I said if you use your eyes and you look at the Biden administration compared to the Trump administration, yeah, Ben Carson is there. Yeah, he put Omarosa in there, who left and wrote a book saying that the man is a racist. But when you look at the Biden administration, it is colorful. It's not one guy here or there. It's the whole damn administration looks like the rainbow. When you look at
Right,
the
but
Trump,
that doesn't mean that he's a great president. That doesn't that
no, it
okay,
doesn't.
great. He
It,
does
it does
something to
not
get
mean it
votes.
does not.
He's
Hang on. It
pandering.
doesn't.
He's
Okay,
pandering.
call it what you want. You might be right about that. I'm just simply saying when you look at, you use your eyes.
Ben
The
Carson
notion
is
that
black. Ben Carson is black. He's
absolutely the brain surgeon that they put in charge of housing and urban development, Ben Carson, is black. I get it. I'm just simply saying when you use your eyes and if you put the Biden administration on a wall, all of their pictures, and you put the Trump administration on a wall, all of their pictures, it would be very difficult to get an African American or a minority to look at all of those pictures on the Biden wall, look at all those pictures on the Trump wall, and say the Biden wall, that's the party of racism. You would not get many folks to say that just based on what you are seeing. Now, if you want to say they're pandering, if you want to say that he's appointing unqualified people or something like that, that's a different argument. Also,
okay.
I will tell you this. There is a host of Caucasians and Omarosa that have been appointed by the Trump administration and left that administration and said Trump is a racist. Why are they doing that? His own lawyer, Michael Cohen, of 20 years, is suggesting that the
Don't
man is
even
a
bring up
racist.
Michael
Why are they
Cohen.
doing that?
You
Huh?
can't bring up that guy.
Okay.
He's a joke.
What about Omarosa? You can't bring her up either, or Scaramucci. These are people that he vetted and he appointed. Why are they saying he's a racist?
Well, if Omarosa knew him before he was president, she worked with him on what was that show? That you're fired, whatever. So
Yeah.
she knew, if that was the case, then why would she go and work with him? She knew him before he was president. So
She was,
if he
as
was
you
truly
say, she was
racist,
pandering.
I would not go and work with somebody who I knew that was truly racist. I would not go and work for him. So she got her 15 minutes of fame and whatever. That's cool. But I mean, me
Well,
personally, if I felt that my sister is my boss, if I felt that she was racist, I would not work with her at
okay,
all
I
or
get
for
that.
her.
I get that. You just said Biden does it because he's pandering. Maybe Omarosa was pandering or trying to get paid. I'm just simply saying a lot of Trump's close associates, including his own family members, are suggesting he's racist. Why? You don't hear that from the Biden administration. You don't hear people that were close to him separating from him and saying this dude is a racist.
Well,
And
they
and
don't
the
have
thing, and
to.
hold on a second. And even the things that we bring up on Biden, which I think you made legitimate points, most of the stuff, with the exception of vote for me or you ain't black, most of the accusations against Biden are years, if not decades old. Most of the stuff that they're making against Trump is pretty recent. That's where the difference is. I strongly believe if Biden was running against a different Republican candidate, his racist past would have hurt him. But you asked, why would folks give Biden a pass? And I told you, it's because his candidate is Trump. Go.
Well, I see your point. I don't. I haven't heard. I haven't heard anybody say that he was racist. I haven't even heard Omarosa say that. But I'm just
You've
the
never heard any of that?
no. I didn't. I didn't hear her go
Wow.
out there and say that. I would think that would be on the 24/7 news network.
Well, I will say this, and I tell this to all of my viewers, and definitely my beloved MAGA audience, because I point out stuff that Trump said that they've never heard, and they point things out that are against the liberal party, oftentimes that I've never heard. And I say this: when you only tend to watch media that falls along what you agree with, you don't hear the other side. Because Omarosa saying Trump was a racist, I think she was on The View saying it. I believe she was all over CNN. If you're right, you're not going to watch CNN. You're not going to watch The View. So, and Fox News is not going to have her on. Same thing with
That's not
John
true. But
Bolton. John
no,
Bolton left the
I
Trump
get what you're
administration.
saying. I make up my own mind. I don't watch. I mean, I do watch everything, but I mean, of course, if you're going to watch CNN all day long, I mean, all they did talk about that. All they did was bash. There's no nothing that they didn't say nothing good about Trump. I could understand.
You're right.
I
You're right. But when you
so
watch
I could
Fox,
say the same thing.
yeah, but
Trump.
that's media. When you watch Fox News, do they say anything good about Obama or Biden? No, those are slanted news networks. I get your point. Go ahead.
Well, and you're right, and that's why I have stopped watching the news a lot because it has made me more angry, and I'm sick of being an angry person. So I do not sit there and watch the news anymore as much anymore. I try to do other researches and do other things because you, yeah, you're right. But I will say I do think that Fox News does a better job at having both sides on there. If I
You
am
you
going to
really
watch,
believe that?
yeah, well, yeah, because every time I watch it, like you want to talk The View. Well, that's The View is all five women. One is a conservative, and the rest are all liberal and whatever.
Right,
And
right. Have you not
so,
watched Outnumbered the Five? It's exactly the
well, yeah,
same
I
thing.
love yes, and
Yeah,
I do love the five.
it's four left wing, it's four right wingers, and one Democrat that often gets out
Right.
talked. The only guy they had on the five, and I'm a big Fox News watcher. Been watching them 20 years. I can cite their entire lineup. They had Bob Beckel on there, back the late Bob Beckel, who's passed away.
Yeah,
Other than him,
yeah, I
even
know.
Juan Williams, even with Juan
I
Williams
actually
on there.
liked him before he got too far into
Yeah,
his pills.
yeah. But
I actually
exactly.
liked him.
Exactly.
I
But what I'm just simply saying is, if you give criticism to The View, the five and Outnumbered are exact same thing in reverse. That's all I'm saying.
no, I know, but the two different shows because I love the five. I do love the five, but the five are a lot more civilized than The View. And they're
You,
less
you
crazy. I
think
mean,
you, you really you think that you look at The View, the most outspoken person on there is probably Joy Behar, followed by Whoopi Goldberg.
yeah.
You think Judge Janine Pirro is any less outspoken on the five than Joy
No, she's
Behar? She's
very.
pretty wild.
Oh no, she is. I agree with you there, but she has education to back her up, and she's got a lot more different kind of experiences than Whoopi Joy, whatever her face is.
Joy Behar.
Yeah.
You just because you got education don't mean you use. I got 3 college degrees, and people think I'm a damn fool. Just because you're educated don't mean you're using your education properly. And yeah, you're right. Judge Jeanine Pirro has a huge education. Kamala Harris probably has similar education to Judge Jeanine Pirro, and you don't agree with her.
No,
What is the other girl? What is the other girl on The View? The black woman that happens to be also a former, court person with all of that experience. You don't agree with them; they're liberal.
I don't always agree with everything that a right person says too. Just because they have an R behind their name does not mean that I necessarily agree with them. I don't agree with you on a lot of things, but I think that you're a very intelligent man, and
Thank you.
I love. That's why I follow you and I listen to you
Thank you. Well, I
because
appreciate that.
you were like a different type of liberal than I'm like. The funny thing is that we are all have a lot of things that we can agree on if we actually have a conversation. Like I was at a soccer game and we were talking about because my my daughter's truck got stolen 2 days ago, and we were saying it was funny that they were driving around town. The only reason why we could tell that it was our vehicle was because of a Trump sticker. And I said that, and this girl goes, "Why would you have a Trump sticker on your thing?" And well, helping us find our car back and whatever. But and one of the girls says, it's really funny is that my name is Lisa. Lisa is a Trump supporter. My mom is ultra liberal. They are total opposites, but me and her mother are good friends because we don't, you know what I mean?
And I like being able to have civil discourse with the other side, which is why I don't hide my name and I prefer talking to MAGA. Let me ask you one other question. I do got to move it on, but
Okay.
I was told in the audience, you ever heard of the Great Replacement Theory? Do you believe that that's a real thing?
I don't know if it is. That's where
You
they're
know what it
trying to
is, right?
replace
You
the
know, you know what
races.
it actually is, right?
Well, where they're trying to get other races and other things to kind of make it. I don't explain it to me better, so I understand it.
The essential belief is that whites are being replaced by minorities, that they're trying to either lower the birth rates of whites or something to the effect of you're trying to make the white race become the minority and overtake them in terms of power and things like that. That may ultimately lead to them being oppressed.
I don't think so.
Essentially, it's the belief that I hate to say it this way, but essentially, it's the belief that they're going to do to us what we did to them. If you really want to narrow it down, they're going to do to us what our race has historically done to them. That's kind of where it falls. Do you believe something like that?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
I would hope not. Are you talking about like how the Planned Parenthood lady wanted to exterminate all the black people? By that's why the abortion is that what you're saying to get
I mean,
extinguished?
it's just a belief that the minorities are going to marginalize white people. Very similar to what happened, where you're only going to be able to climb so high in the social environment. We're just going to marginalize you. You're not going to have a lot of say so in elections. You're not going to have a lot of power in this country. Christianity is going to be ostracized. Stuff like that. Essentially, the exact same thing that happened to minorities, where your power, your influence is going to be marginalized.
Well, I don't think so. But if you know, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, I do
I
want to
would
move it
love
on. I
it
just
if
asked
people
you
would
that
stop
because
seeing people as race and stop all that and
we've,
just be people.
we've
Just be
always done that. Go ahead.
yeah. I just want I'm just tired of this whole divide of left, right, poor, rich, black, white. We are all Americans. We are all bleed red. Just why can't we just all get along? That's I don't
Fair
know.
enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming through. I do got to move it on.
All right. Well, thank you. You have a great day.
Absolutely. You too. You too, ma'am. Absolutely a pleasure. Okay. The question, why can't we all just get along? I think the last guy that asked that was found dead in his swimming pool. Okay, because of racism. The fact is, at the end of the day, we've always saw race. We've always saw classes. If you want to talk about, you want to maintain the Second Amendment because it's the way the founding fathers intended, our country was founded on division. All of the things she suggested that we need to get rid of, that is how our country was founded on. I mean, there's a reason why I go by African American. That's not a name that blacks came over here and was happy to create. That was given us. Now we could get rid of it if you want to argue it that way, but at the end of the day, our country was founded on seeing folks and labeling them by what you visually see with your eyes. I don't know what else to do with that. But listen, folks, I do got to run. I got to get back to work. And Dark Guyver, I do apologize for not getting to you. I'll be back on at 7 o'clock tonight. I do have to wrap it up. Catch you guys later.